Hello. I would like to share an idea I have about sketchbooks. Um, the plant to my left is a very old plant, and I kind of put it in this video because it's very significant for me. I think it is older than I am. I have a photograph. It's a black and white photograph of my family. My brothers are in the picture, both sets of grandparents. We're just teeny kids. I'm about 1.5 or 2. Another brother's 3. Another brother's just recently born. And this plant that you see is on an end table. And that's kind of just fascinated me for a long time because, for one thing, I've wondered, how old is this plant and how long does a plant live? So when my folks passed away, I saw it and I thought, I want that plant. And then that kind of brings me to the idea of what I'm trying to say today, and it's got something to do with living things and planting and cultivation and growth. I feel these things as an artist, and I also am inspired by it as a teacher, the idea of cultivation and watering and caring and seeds and all those kind of things. So I thought I'd show you I'd start off with one sketchbook. This sketchbook starts in November of 2018, and the very first drawing is this one showing this man, and it says, "God knows." And I recall that when I drew it, I wanted some sense that there was a consciousness or knowledge out there about what we experience here, and kind of hoping that to be heard. And so I feel that way, and I think you probably do. We probably all do, that there's a sense that we want someone to hear us, and I think that that's what I was kind of experiencing at that moment. And then the next drawing in the sketchbook is this one, and I just drew this probably in just about a minute maybe. Sometimes I respond to things that I read about or something I'm feeling, and I kind of want to express it. And I don't always have an exact reason why I'm doing it, but I just sort of let it happen. This one's a few pages later, and it's a takeoff on a famous print by Martin Schongauer of Saint Anthony being pestered or devoured by these demons, and it's a print. And so at that moment, I was obviously experiencing something, and sometimes I just reflect on it, and I thought, wow, I could make a painting like that. But that particular print I've noted as an art student and also as an art teacher, and some of the things that we experience in our lives, are evident in the artworks of the world. Here's something. Sometimes I'll just sit at night and just kind of sit in a chair maybe and just draw. This one's with pencil. My kind of process is about sort of the world around me. I kind of crack up at this one. It says, resolving conflicts of the mind and spirit. I sometimes want to create a book in my sketchbooks. I've thought, could I write a book? But I don't really have that capability, but I can still sort of conceptualize or think about a book, and sometimes that's kind of enough for me. This is a sketch of a little building next to a bigger building, I think, and with that light on it. I have an affinity, I guess you could say, for just the relationship of buildings and places. I like sort of architectural kind of things. And in this one, this little cave, we're in the shelter-in-place period. Today is April 6th, 2020. And my wife was telling me the other day that she thought that my work was kind of suited for this, and I think she's kind of right, because I often, and I've kind of always thought about shelter. This one's a memory of my grandparents' house, And I find that lodged in kind of the recesses of my memory are just a collection of places and images and people and thoughts, and I try to allow for that to surface. This is kind of the same place, kind of their place, or sort of their place from the front. But I was thinking about rain and the elements and the moisture, hot and cold, wind, all of those kind of things are an ongoing interest for me. This is a sketch of where I'm sitting right now, and that little trunk you see is kind of where I'm sitting. So sometimes my art is just right where I am. I tend to think this way, and I also kind of teach this way, that art's kind of both observation and imagination. That's kind of how I've kind of figured out how to teach my drawing class. Those two things like kind of work together. Here's a memory, another memory from trying to figure out what my memory was about this little lean-to structure at my grandparents' place. And kind of lean-to structures, add-on structures, they're just, it always interests me. I remember telling a friend of mine about that. Here's this is a memory of this deck and kind of overhang my father constructed at our home when I was a kid, and I remember just being just completely fascinated by that process and kind of the magic of it, and just admiring this kind of my dad, watching him and the skill, and as best I could, I tried to help. And then this was a place that was a ranch house that was sort of a stone house out in this property where my parents took us, and we lived there for a while. And it's a very fond memory. Sometimes I'll just draw a person, and I don't necessarily know who they are, but this is just someone I kind of came up with. It's sort of an amalgam, is that the right word? Sort of a collection of things. Here's a drawing of a figure in an environment. And then, but sometimes I do know the person. This was, in my recollection, this was a student who I was trying to remember, and I drew that. So a lot of times my art has been about, it could be a person I've known, it could be a significant memory, and then maybe I'll just sort of finish on this one. This is kind of down our driveway. And if you notice that there's when you look there, there's like a little rectangle. And sometimes I think that's something that we do as artists, is that we frame things. And in that particular case, somebody might just be walking by and suddenly it becomes like a scene. And so, just to carry forward that idea, here's like a blank page, but it is a rectangle, and I think that we as artists and people, we kind of want to frame things, and by framing things, it helps us understand. I think that as individuals, as artists, we're trying to carry forward a sense of ourselves, and there's kind of like a get to know you process, and people who know me have probably heard me say that, but it's like a relationship. So as you start to develop a means by which ideas can kind of come out, sometimes you as a person, you're developing a relationship. So you might feel shy about it. So I'm showing the blank page because often there's that discussion of that blank page for the artist. And over again, I've noted that I just have to make that break and just kind of allow myself just to express and not always to know. So in a way, you have to turn something off in order to turn something on. And in doing so, going back to the example of cultivation, you start to plant seeds and something starts to grow. and in that growth, there's new life. And so by participating, by engaging, by wanting to understand, you create a new adventure for yourself, and it's a process of discovery. And I think also by sharing it, you converse with others, and it's very beautiful, and I think it's very important. And I think that's the kind of the role as artists that we choose and that we play. So I encourage you to go on a journey, go on an adventure, and allow yourself that freedom, and just kind of have fun with it. So thanks for listening. I'll try another sketchbook idea again, I think. See how this works. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.